Hello, boondockers, dispersed campers, van dwellers on federal land. Hate to scare you, but the next time you're out there and you're in a place in the middle of nowhere and you're taking a shower, or maybe decide to go to the bathroom or whatever, or maybe you just don't like being watched all the time. You never know, there could be someone watching you on a camera. So I was doing a little research here, and here's the headline. Now this is from 2010, but there's no telling how many times this has been done where they haven't gotten caught. It says Francis Marion has hidden cameras. Now Francis Marion, that's Francis Marion National Park down here by Charleston. Because what I was doing is I was doing a little research into like possible places to go travel to the East Coast to go camping, and this looked like a good place. It's near Charleston. But then I ended up running across this story. Francis Marion has hidden cameras. So what it says is basically this guy was last month, Herman Jacob took his daughter and her friend camping at Francis Marion National Forest. While poking around for some firewood, he noticed a wire, and he pulled the wire and fouled it to a video camera and antenna. Now, this was 7 or 8 years ago, so who knows? By now, maybe they wouldn't even need anything that had a cable on it, even because the way technology has been increasing. But anyway, so what had happened is it didn't have any kind of marking, so eventually he took it home, and then he called up someone in the National Forest Service. And then in a stiff voice, because he was probably, embarrassed that he got caught, Heitzman ordered Jacob to turn it back into his agency, explaining it had been set up to monitor illicit activities. So he returned the camera and felt uneasy. Okay, and the rest of this just goes how this newspaper here, the Post and Courier down in Charleston, I presume, they tried to get a hold of the National Forest Service, and this Mark guy referred them to their spokesman, who wouldn't say anything. So basically they just wouldn't tell, if this was just because were they looking for a specific thing that was going on at this location, some illegal dumping, a meth lab out there, or did they just do this all the time, just to and they also wouldn't really tell them like what they do with these images of people that they catch on film. And now they do say in this article too, and I'm assuming the people who wrote this article know a little bit more about the law, but they said the Fourth Amendment guards against unreasonable searches and seizures, But it says that in general, courts have typically held that you have no reasonable privacy in public places such as banks, streets, open fields, or public lands. Now we can understand like public lands. Yeah, you don't. If you're out in the middle of a parking lot, you don't really have any reasonable expectation of privacy. But if you're in the middle of a national forest and you're the only person for miles, maybe, or whatever, or no one's supposed to, usually, you're going to assume that, okay, it's okay to, go visit a tree or something without someone watching you or something, or, or whatever, I mean, that's an okay place, but apparently not. There's really, I guess, apparently no law that says they can't do this, and so you never know. I mean, I'm not saying this is going to happen very often, but apparently there have been some cases of this happening where there's these hidden cameras out in the forest. Now, I tried looking up to see if there was any other hidden national forest hidden cameras, and I couldn't really find all the ones I found. Okay, I found one about illegal activity, road activity, but this looked like a camera that was pretty well. I think you could see even from this thumbnail, this camera was pretty far out in the open. Someone could see that, and the other ones are hidden cameras where they filmed wildlife things. So either it's being suppressed, maybe like Google or whatever. They're not really putting this stuff where it's very searchable or whatever, or maybe it doesn't happen very often. And I looked up BLM land too, so maybe this doesn't happen very often, or maybe it happens more than you think, and it's just that they're better at hiding their devices. So I think it's time to maybe just think about the subject of van life counter surveillance. Okay, and just so you know the definition of counter surveillance. Counter surveillance refers to measures undertaken to prevent surveillance, covert surveillance. Counter surveillance may include electronic methods such as bug sweeping, in the process of detecting surveillance devices, including covert listening devices, visual surveillance, and Okay, so anyway, so you might want to just take some steps if you really are worried about it when you're out in BLM or national forest, just to make sure that maybe the area right around you is not being surveilled. If that bothers you, now I wouldn't recommend actually like destroying their property, if you find a camera, but at least maybe you'll know, like, don't go in that area, or maybe you could just like kind of cover up the lens while you're there or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you'll get in trouble if you just do that. So, but anyway, but just I just did a quick look at this subject for a second. Okay, like how to find hidden cameras on Wiki. How now this is yeah, I guess this is not really too useful because this is mostly talking about counter surveillance in your house, which is useful too. But okay, so that's not really super. But anyway, but I did look on real quick. I looked on Amazon for like hidden camera detector, and now the thing is, it kind of mixes this up because this is actually a hidden camera, not a detector. But yeah, like here's one that looks like a smoke detector, and then, but okay, spy camera, lens, adjustable, sensitive. Okay, so there's a few different devices. I'm sure you could find a lot more if you're looking for different devices, and I don't know how well they work, but I think partially how they work is sometimes they'll pick up glint from like the lens, like making an extra being the lens being shiny, and so a lot of times they're trying to pick up the signals as well, so signals. Now you got to realize though, if there's wires, they're not going to probably put out a signal if it maybe the wire could go really far to like some place that was like. But anyway, but never mind. But I guess they may have a transmitter. They may not have a transmitter. They may have a recording device there instead. So but maybe it can pick up like a little bit of a signal just from like from the electricity flowing, because that creates a little bit of a radio signal. But anyway, then they even have like a hidden camera app for Android, and I don't know, some people said it actually worked, but that'll be something to test sometime. I just wanted to kind of get the discussion rolling today on this. Maybe other people can talk about this, because I mean, this is something counter surveillance. It might be an important thing for the future if you really value your privacy, to like, to really arm yourself with the information about this, whether it's for camping or any other purposes. I mean, if we don't want like a 1984 style, surveillance state. And then it got okay. Then I was thinking like a metal detector would be like about the best. Actually, if you're someplace in a national forest or something, so like let's say there's like a wooded area and you knew there was at least not supposed to be any metal around there, right? So, I mean, as far as we know, any camera's gonna have metal in it and everything. Any electronics. I mean, until they invent something that doesn't, and then you could go around, and then if you scan any kind of metal, you could search for it. Now, maybe this would be a way for like a hobby when you go camping to build, maybe look for things that that you might want to get, like find money and stuff, that kind of metal detecting. Or you could also at the same time be kind of scanning the area. Maybe, I mean, you're not going to be able to scan the entire area, but maybe you could at least have a few little like safe zones, that where like, okay, this area, in this little clearing in between these trees, that this doesn't have any, you're pretty sure it doesn't have any cameras and stuff. And then the last thing you could do would be spy cam jammers. Now these are kind of expensive, but there are devices that it can actually like jam wire. Oh, well, okay, it jams wireless devices, so that's another thing. But if it's a recording device, it probably wouldn't do you any good. So maybe probably the metal detector. If you just wanted to know that like your campsite didn't really have any, you could get something like this and like try to scan the ground, scan as high as you could see in the trees and stuff. Just try to do that. Maybe then with some of these other devices. I mean, I guess if you had to buy one device, I would think probably some kind of metal detector would be about the best. They have like handheld ones. I think you could set the sensitivity on these things like really high to where, so if there's really no metal in the area other than the detector, then the cameras, and this might be the simplest thing to do. So, I hate to cause like some fear when you come, but I guess it's something that we should be aware of. And I haven't really seen any other video that was really mentioning this, so I thought I'd just start the discussion about this. And thanks. This is John with Hidden Highways. Have a good day.